What's up, nerds? It's Zach the Goblin here. I think we can all agree that Warhammer 40k is amazing. With so much lore and hundreds of books to pull from, you could spend a lifetime learning and still not know everything. Now, I'm exaggerating slightly, but the fact that most everyone only has a partial knowledge of the full picture is something that makes the grim darkness of the 40k universe so interesting to me. When you think 40k, you probably imagine the horror of never-ending wars across the entire galaxy, bioengineered super soldiers, eldritch abominations, etc. But to me, some of my favorite things about the setting is when things get a little wacky. You all probably know the drill by now, as this is the 5th video I've done in this series, 6 if you count the compilation video. So today I'm going to be talking about your favorite funny things about Warhammer 40k, as pulled from your comments on the previous videos. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that noti bell for more Warhammer 40k content. Let me know your favorite funny things about Warhammer 40k in the comments below. Who knows, you might even make it into the next video. Okay, without further ado, it's Goblin time. So this first comment, or comments in this case, is kind of a two birds one stone thing for me. And I'm gonna go in order here. The first of this pair comes from Wolf I4C. And I know it's not actually spelled wolf, but I can't pronounce that, so I'm just gonna say wolf. And they say, can we get some Space Wolves content next? And I just want to let everyone know that I am working on it. My knowledge on modern 40k Space Wolves is a little lacking, so I'm reading some more books and doing some extra research so I can do the topic justice. So I promise, I am working on it in the background. So moving on to what I'm actually going to cover in this video, from commenter Memento Mori 771, they wrote, Lukas the Trickster is worth a whole video for being the funniest space marine. Even his death will be a troll to his would-be killer. And I agree, upon doing some research, Lukas the Trickster could definitely have his own video. And probably will if I'm being honest. But I'm gonna do a quick little overview right now. Lukas definitely lives up to his name. A member of the Space Wolves chapter, Lukas has never left the ranks of the Blood Claws company, and that company is usually just reserved for like fresh recruits, people who just underwent the surgeries to become Astartes. And he hasn't left the company because he's not capable. Far from it, he is very capable. The reason he hasn't promoted out is simply just because the Wolf Lords don't want to have to deal with him. He just annoys them so much with his antics, and the funny part about it is he knows he does that, and he likes it. Bro is a master rage baiter. It's so bad that the Wolf Lords pass him around because nobody really wants to deal with him. But somebody has to, right? And to decide who has to take him, the Wolf Lords will fight each other, with the first person giving up having to take charge of Lukas. Some of his antics include putting a bunch of blood lice in Bjorn Stormwolf's Terminator armor, with Bjorn proceeding to kick the shit out of Lukas, with the Trickster just laughing the whole time, until he lost consciousness, of course. And he even locked some Inquisitors into a pen of Fenrisian animals during their mating season. But he's not just a menace to his allies, he's even worse to his enemies. My man fights dirty. He says, fighting fairly? That's cringe. He once pretended to be an orc and created a massive civil war from the inside, decimating the forces. And again, he is a master of rage bait. He once baited a word-bearer Chaos Lord into invading Fenris, under the pretense that they were going to have a duel. The meeting place being the Sea of Lost Souls, in an area where the ice is really thin. So when they touch down and they all get out, the ice breaks and they just drown. So those are some examples, but basically, Lukas the Trickster is just a fucker, and I think it's hilarious. I think it's really important that 40k has some of these characters to kind of level out the overly serious, grimdark nature of the universe sometimes. Speaking of fun characters, this next comment talks about someone who has shown up quite a few times in these videos. Trazyn the Infinite. Commenter Jake Hinton 732 says, Trazyn and the Bell of St. Gerstal. It starts ringing inside Solemnus and thrashing his exhibits, so he yeets that bitch into the webway so it will hopefully inconvenience the Eldar. This is the greatest fuck around move ever. This comes from the book The Fall of Cadia by Robert Rath. So Trazyn's just chilling, you know, having a good time, taking a little break from stealing shit, you know, the usual. When all of a sudden, a bell from one of his exhibits starts ringing, which shouldn't be happening as it's in a stasis vault, right? And it's ringing to signify that things are going down with the 13th Black Crusade. And each chime is creating reverberations through Solemnus, causing damage to all the exhibits. And Trazyn knows that the bell ringing foretells a cataclysm of historic proportions. So during all of this, right, all this damage is happening, and there's the implication of what the bell ringing means. Trazyn's thought is, wait a minute, how can I make this someone else's problem? So he's like, let's throw this shit into the webway. Now it's the Aldari's problem, not mine. And this is very on brand for Trazyn. And I just think it's funny because he's like, okay, well, we're gonna go where the action is, but first, let me screw over the Aldari real quick. Okay, so now we're gonna change gears and talk about something that's funny because of how over the top it is. And I'm speaking, of course, about the evilness of the Drukhari. This was mentioned by commenter Piano Spawn 1, and they wrote, I absolutely love the fact that the Drukhari have the most insane technology and abilities, yet just use it for outright evil. And they go on to talk about some examples of this, and I agree, it is hilariously diabolical. Like, I know there's an underlying reason why they're so evil, like they kind of have to cause as much suffering as possible to save their souls from Slaanesh, right? But that doesn't make it not over the top and kind of goofy at times. Like, obviously for the victims, not goofy at all, right? But from the outside, it's just so over the top that it's kind of funny, you know? Like, they're just so unsympathetic to me. Like, they're just like mustache twirling villains. Like, I'm doing evil for the sake of just doing evil shit. It's fun to do bad things. Like, they slow the senses to make people feel and experience eternity, just so that their torture is experienced forever, right? They make furniture out of living humans. And it's not that they were living when it started to be made and then now they're dead. They are furniture and they're still alive somehow. If you can imagine it, the Drukhari have done it. In the book Nightbringer by Graham McNeil, they removed the flesh from a man and suspended it above him, all the while keeping him alive. Like, all of this is horrific, right? But it's so over the top that it just kind of reaches the other side for me and is kind of just silly. Like, you know, if you take it out of context of the books and stuff, it just seems kind of silly almost, if that makes sense. I don't know. Maybe there's just something wrong with me and Piano Spawn 1. Okay, so I'm kind of cheating on this next one. This comment is responding to something that I've already talked about, but I think it's really funny, so I wanted to include it, and it's my video, so I'm counting it. Now, I'm pretty bad with pronunciation, so I apologize in advance. This comes from commenter Thomas Falanka 3220, who writes, who pulls their balls out when they pee? Now, this is a question for the ages, of course. But first I want to give a little background. This is in response to something I talked about in the first video of the series, and it was an excerpt from the book Legion by Dan Abnett. And I'm not going to repeat it here, but it described a back and forth between Alfarius of the Alpha Legion, who has something of a confrontation and back and forth with Hetman Hurtado Bronzi, who is in the process of pissing. And in the process of this, there's some dick and ball jokes, and I just thought it was funny that a Primarch is making ball jokes with a normal soldier, right? Just that whole image is really funny. But Thomas brings up a good point. For them to be making those jokes, that means when Hurtado Bronzi was peeing, his testicles were also out, right? And so we asked the question, who takes out their balls when they pee? I don't know if I'm telling on myself here, but I do. Is that crazy? Am I the only one? I included this comment mostly because it was just funny, right? It's a funny question, but also because now I'm concerned. Am I weird for pulling out my balls when I pee? Who else does this? Let me know in the comments below. We need the answers to these very important questions. Okay, so as you know, I really like when the normally super serious Space Marines display some humor. I like it when they say or do something funny, intentional or not. And I'm pretty sure I've included a few of these moments in each of these videos. And I'm not going to break away from that trend today. This next one comes from Honest Warmonger 4662. If I remember correctly, a certain Space Marine Terminator falls through a bridge and gets stuck, so his brothers call a crane crew to pick him up, and they're laughing at him the whole time. This comes from the book Master of Sanctity by Gav Thorpe. The Terminator in question is like, hey, there's a sub-level down here, descending, with one of his buddies being like, no, don't do that, but the warning came too late, and they just hear the sound of splintering wood and crumbling ferrocrete, followed by an almighty crash. The Space Marine Terminator, named Dalen, cursing without pause over the Vox. Their sergeant yelling at them to report, and they're like, Brother Dalen misjudged the load bearing of some internal stairs, Brother Sergeant. Trying not to laugh the whole time, right? With the sergeant being like, hey, Dalen, can you climb out? Negative. It's a 3-meter drop at least. The floor will not hold my weight to pull myself up. And then they have to call an armory extraction team to get Dalen out of there. And it's just really funny to see essentially this walking tank falling through a flight of stairs because it couldn't support his weight. It's just kind of goofy and funny. I like it. Keeping with the theme of super soldiers being funny, in this case, a custodian. This next one comes from commenter Chaos1925, and I apologize if I butchered that. The custodian collapsed a breath later, using the World Eater's corpse as a seat. This has been the worst day since yesterday. So what I've said before about Space Marines usually being super serious is multiplied tenfold when it comes to the custodians. They tend to just be no nonsense. So this comes from the book The Master of Mankind by Aaron Dembski Bowden, goated author by the way. So this takes place after Magnus the Red fucks up the Emperor's Webway project. This caused a breach in the Webway portal, allowing demons to rush through, right? So due to that, the custodians are fighting a war within the Webway to push back the Horde, just to give you a little bit of context, right? And at this point in the book, they had been fighting for 15 days straight with almost no rest in between. And they had just killed a group of World Eaters, one of them still clinging to life even though he'd been bisected at the waist. And Custodian Ra Endymion is just kind of talking at him and being like, hey, I was there. I was there the day we saved your mongrel Primarch from certain death. And he's musing that, you know, they shouldn't have saved him. They should have just let him die, right? And just keep in mind that everything around this, they've been through 15 days of constant battle. They're seeing demons, there's just horrors beyond belief, right? And as Ra Endymion's just talking at this dying World Eater, another custodian, Solon, just comes out of nowhere and drives his spear through the World Eater's spine, pulls it out, collapses a moment later using the World Eater's corpse as a seat, and just is like, this has been the worst day since yesterday. And he says it with no trace of a smile in his tone, right? He says it just deadpan, matter-of-factly even. So to me, what makes this even funnier is he's not trying to be funny. He's just saying, damn, this sucks, doesn't it? Yeah, no shit, it sucks. This is the worst day since yesterday. You're fighting demons and corn-worshipping World Eaters in a different dimension. So this next one isn't from a commenter. This is just something that I found during my research. And this is from the book The Dark Disciple by Anthony Reynolds. And this involves a World Eater's leader, Marduk, and a possessed Space Marine, Burias. And they are taking part in an underwater mission in a submarine. Burias sat at the controls of the craft, looking ludicrously large, hunched over the dials and levers that controlled the pitch, speed, depth, direction, and roll of the submersible. It was a simple control system akin to that of a shuttle, and he had little trouble becoming familiar with it. He grinned like a madman as he discovered the controls of the exterior robotic arms. And in the view screen, Marduk could see the massive power claw snapping and the huge drill spinning, creating a small whirlpool of turbulence. Burias, it is not a toy, said Marduk. The submersible struck one of the underside legs of the mining facility, and Burias looked around at Marduk guiltily. Sorry, he said, and stopped fooling around with the robotic arms to concentrate on piloting the craft. This is really funny, just because he's like a kid with a new toy. He's like, ooh, look, robot arms, and he's just like messing around with them, right? And what makes it even funnier to me is that he's a possessed Space Marine, so he's like part demon too. So he's just, you know, being a goofy little guy. And the fact that he looks back kind of guiltily and he apologizes, it makes it even funnier to me. Because I'm just imagining a demon-possessed Astartes looking back sheepishly towards his leader, right? It's a funny image. Okay, so before I get back to another comment, this next one is from Horus Rising by Dan Abnett. This incident involves Lucius from the Emperor's Children and Garviel Loken from, at the time, the Luna Wolves. So Lucius, if you don't know, super cocky swordsman, right? He thinks he's the best. He wants to be the best. And he just got done beating somebody else in the practice cages. And the Mournival are trying to goad Loken into fighting him next. The Mournival was a group of Astartes who were, at the time, Horus's advisors. And they consisted of Ezekiel Abaddon, Tarek Torgotten, Little Horus Aximan, and Garviel Loken. And they're all like, come on, Garviel, you gotta fight him. You're the best of us with a blade. You gotta show him how the Luna Wolves do it. Skill with the blade isn't everything, Garviel protested. Lucius is like, bring it on. Any way you want me. Show me how a Luna Wolf fights, Loken. Show me how you win. And he's being a dick about it. It's obvious that he doesn't think that Loken could beat him. And Loken again says, it's not just about the blade. But he can tell he doesn't have a choice, so he starts getting ready. And again, he says, I'm no swordsman. And Lucius is like, then this will be over quickly. With Garviel Loken saying, if we spar, it won't just be about the blade. Whatever, Lucius said. Just get on and fight me. And Loken just sighs. He's like, okay, but I've been watching you, of course. The attacking strokes. I can read you. You wish. I can read you. Come for me. And Lucius lunged at Loken. Loken sidestepped, blade down, and punched Lucius in the face. Lucius falling on his back hard. Loken dropped the sword on the mat. I think I've made my point. That's how a Luna Wolf fights. Understand your foe and do whatever is necessary to bring him down. Sorry, Lucius. And this was probably one of my favorite moments of Horus Rising. It was just so funny. He just decks him. And it's even more cathartic because Lucius is so pompous, right? He's kind of an ass. To see him humbled in such a way is just great. And Garviel even warns him. He's like, hey, this isn't going to be about the blade. I'm just going to win. And the fact that he was just so reluctant to even fight. He's like, I don't even want to do this, dude. And then I think also knowing the terror that Lucius later becomes, it's kind of funny just to see him laid low with just a single punch to the face. I don't know. It was just really funny to me. Okay, so this next one is brought to you by commenter Travis Sanders 7894. And he writes, my favorite story is when a bunch of Iron Warriors stole an Ork plane. Finding it started moving after smacking the control console because the go button didn't work. How do we stop this scrap heap? Asked an Iron Warrior, finding the brakes and landing gear disabled. The pilot simply replied, we crash. This comes from a book in the Space Marine Battles novel series, The Siege of Castellax by C.L. Werner. So what I think makes this even funnier is that one of the Iron Warriors consumes the brain of the Ork pilot to gain his knowledge of the aircraft. For those who don't know, this is done because the Space Marines have a special organ called the omophagia, I think that's how you pronounce it, which allows the Astartes to gain part of an individual person's or creature's memory by eating its flesh. Okay, yeah, so he ate the Ork pilot's brain, so he gains all the knowledge that that Ork had of the aircraft. But the thing is, even if he understands everything, he still doesn't know how it works, because the Ork doesn't know how it works. None of them do. So the Iron Warrior in question, Gamori, is trying to slow down the plane. Gamori brought his foot smashing down on the other pedal, but it simply flopped limply against the floor. He turned and looked at Rodan. That should have been the brake, he reported. It seems the pilot took it upon himself to disable it. The Ork didn't want to appear timid to its fellows, he elaborated as some of the alien's memories stirred in his mind. Rodan felt his heart's hammer in his breast. How do we land without brakes? He demanded. Again, Gamori focused upon the mental images from the Ork's brain. We crash. So this is even funnier because it kind of shows the way the Ork's brain worked. I mean, he disabled his brakes so he would seem tough. He's like, I don't want my boys to think I'm a wimp or anything. And then when Gamori is searching the Ork's memories for a way to land this plane, right? The only solution he can think of is crash the plane, which is such an Ork thing to do. The Ork's silliness is infectious in a way. Like, it makes other non-funny factions do funny things just because they're dealing with the Orks, you know? Okay, so this last one comes from the Primarch book, Roboute Guilliman, Lord of Ultramar, which is a book I actually just finished reading the other day. So spoiling as little as possible. Towards the end of the book, Roboute Guilliman and some of his Ultramarines are confronting an Ork war boss. And this war boss is sitting upon a throne of bombs, most of them being of the radioactive variety. The throne of destruction towered over everything else in the cavern. The Orks had constructed it by piling up ordnance. Missiles, rockets, bombs, and shells formed a giant heap. It was a mound more than a throne, a mountain of crawling, burning, agonizing death. The Ork Emperor sat at the peak. He's just sitting on the Ork equivalent of the Iron Throne. And what makes this even more ridiculous is that these are still live weapons. Like, they could just go off at any time. But the Orks don't care. They're too stupid to fucking care. They don't even know how to use these weapons. They just know these are cool-ass bombs. Let's make a big mound of them, put our strongest Ork on top. Cool-ass Ork, right? And then Guilliman proceeds to battle the Ork war boss on top of this mountain of bombs. This is just so over the top and ridiculous, and it's so stupid, but in the best way possible, I think, at least. Okay, so that was the last one, but as longtime viewers of the channel know, I like to give a little bonus at the end of these videos for the good boys and girls who have stayed this long. Think of it kind of as a reward. This time, the bonus is an interaction that happened in my comment section. Tinfoil Hat 3268 isn't a big fan of my username for some reason. I couldn't imagine why. And I think friend of the channel, Palmershock, says it best. Fake beater detected. Fake Gooner alert, if you will. No, but in all actuality, it's fine not to like my username. I get it. Truly, I do. I mostly just thought it was really funny that Palmershock's first instinct was to just call him a fake beater. Like, that was what was really funny to me. It's funny because my name's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Where I have people that say, I clicked on the video and I subscribed just because of your name. And then I have people that are just like, I hate your name so much. And both are valid, right? Both are valid. I understand it. I do kind of think it's funny, though, that you click on a video that says Gooner Goblin, and then they're like, wait a minute, I actually hate this name. But anyways, not really important either way. I just thought the interaction was kind of funny. But thank you so much for watching the video. It really means a lot. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Even the ones that hate my name, maybe even especially the ones that hate my name, because you watched the video despite that, and that's actually pretty cool of you. If you enjoyed yourself, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Goblin out.